Welcome to Newcastle. This is Bowmont Street, one of Newcastle's favourite places to eat and drink. But it didn't always look like this. In 1989, an earthquake registering 5.6 on the Richter scale rocked Newcastle, killing 13 people and injuring many more. Today, we will revisit Bowmont Street and some of the worst affected areas of Newcastle. So come with me as we revisit Newcastle's darkest day. All right, welcome to Newcastle and welcome back to a very unique video that I'm about to do. Now, I've lived in Newcastle now for 5 years. So I moved down from a place which is about an hour north, Nelson Bay, Anna Bay, 5 years ago. What I have heard a lot of since living in Newcastle is of the earthquake that devastated this city in December 1989. And today I'm gonna debunk a lot of information about that day, what went on, the destruction it caused, the trauma it caused, the deaths it caused, and give you a little bit of an insight into how devastating it was. All right, let me just take you back to that day, the 28th of December 1989. It was 10:27 a.m. Newcastle was going about its usual day. Hundreds of men attended the BHP Steelworks in Newcastle, which employed so many locals, and local people just going about their business, going around the town, going to work, on lunch breaks, on coffee breaks, when out of nowhere, an earthquake which registered 5.6 on the Richter scale smashed Newcastle. It actually struck a place called Bullaroo, which is about 14 kilometers away from Newcastle city centre, and the earthquake was actually 11 kilometers underground. From sources that I've read, the locals just described it as everything started shaking and rumbling. The Newcastle Workers Club was probably, well, it was the most affected building. Ended up killing 9 people. And buildings on Bowmont Street, which is renowned for its age and historic buildings, started to collapse. And I'll show you in a minute as I walk down Bowmont Street why these buildings collapsed. There were buildings that are still standing now that have been rebuilt, but other buildings are simply not there anymore. As you can probably see, you have all these like awnings all over the side of the street on both sides. These were probably the worst things that could have happened, because these things, when the buildings started to shake and being so old, these were the first things to crumble and come down and cause injury. Right guys, just thought I'd have a quick haircut while I'm at it, guys. That building back there, that is the clock tower on Bowmont Street, and during the earthquake that clock tower actually had major cracks in it, and what they actually did was they demolished the whole clock tower and they had to rebuild it. But when they rebuilt it, they actually rebuilt it a lot shorter than the original one. I'm guessing, I don't know, I'm guessing to prevent this thing happening if it happened again. But obviously it's still a main part of Bowmont Street and it's a bit iconic if you ask me. But yeah, they had to obviously shorten it, so for safety reasons I'm guessing. So yeah, the clock tower was actually completely demolished after the earthquake. There's a little bit more of context of these awnings. You see them right here, and then all the way down the other side as well. Nearly every single shop front has got an awning, and these, like I said, are the things that collapsed. So as soon as the city started vibrating and shaking, because it was such an old street, all these awnings came down. And in fact, two people died on Bowmont Street from the rubble, and 1 person died of shock, and 9 people at the Workers Club. So obviously this was devastating when these fell down, and I'm guessing unfortunately killed 2 people. You can actually still see from quite a few of these places that some of these facades and some of these awnings still look pretty dodgy, if you ask me. Like they could collapse at any second now. Now coming up to the Kent Hotel. The Kent Hotel was severely damaged during the earthquake, but the owners at the time, they argued and said that the structural integrity of this building was still okay, and they were able just to repair and carry on after the earthquake. But this was very close to being completely demolished. So as you can see now, it's still very old. Still had its old parts to it, but also still being maintained as well, freshly painted. So this place was very lucky. And in fact, 2 people died, like I said, on Bowmont Street. One of those people was unfortunately part of the Kent Hotel, inside the hotel when the earthquake struck. So pretty sad. Bowmont Street has always been, since I've been here, very vibey street. Like it comes to life at night, a lot of food, but as you can see, it is very old. Some of the buildings you can see still very, very old. So obviously after the earthquake, I'm guessing people came through and checked the integrity of every building, and they were still able to maintain what they had, and there had to be no structural work done to their buildings. But yeah, it's a shame, because I can imagine a lot of people were on the street that day. What I'm going to do now is take you to a big cathedral in the city of Newcastle, which was severely damaged as well, and show you that. And yeah, just take you to the Workers' Club as well, which obviously was the building that was affected the most during the earthquake, which killed 9 people. So it's actually undergoing work as we speak now. So we'll go down there and have a look at them and yeah, see what it's like today. Back in the car. Like I said, this is Bowmont Street, an absolutely beautiful street. And it's probably one of the only streets in Newcastle, to be honest with you, that I'm aware of that's pretty much kept its heritage in terms of, you know, the buildings that are allowed to be here now structurally are still here. Like no developers come in and absolutely destroyed the place. So it's a beautiful street. But in saying that, Bowmont Street probably had the most damage in terms of how much damage. But like I said, the Newcastle Workers' Club, which we're going to go to in a second, along with the cathedral, was severely affected. So I just want to take you there and show you around and give you a few bits of information on that, because that obviously suffered a lot as well. So I did actually reach out to a few people, and I actually asked in the Kent then as well if anyone that was there was around when the earthquake struck. They'd said no. So I did try and get a few people to maybe interview or just speak to about that day, but unfortunately, yeah, I just haven't been able to do it. So I'm trying to give you as much information as I can on that day and what happened. I really wanted someone who had actually been there on the day to tell me about that experience. So I apologise for that, but I did try. Guys, I'm here, the Christchurch Cathedral, and look at it. It is so good. So during the earthquake, guys, there was a lot of structural damage to the piers and the walls of this cathedral. So we're going to go inside now and have a little look around and see what we can see. So like I said, we'll go inside in a minute, but it did say that the piers were damaged and the walls were damaged. Now, if I'm looking up here, you can see these piers that stand sort of alone by themselves, and they're only connected by a tiny little bit of brickwork there. Obviously there's other piers as well, which will obviously structurally hold this building together. So I'm guessing, I don't know, I'm guessing when it comes down to the piers being damaged and the structural integrity of this cathedral, that's probably what would have been damaged, and maybe the main piers as well, which hold this place together. So pretty crazy to think that so much damage was done to such a historical building. But in saying that, look at it now. Honestly, it's absolutely mental. Apparently this place is haunted. I don't know, but I would never come here at night. So but it's such a beautiful building, man. It really is. It reminds me very much of the UK and England, and like the age of this place. Like, it's cool. It's really cool. We're going to go around the other side and go inside and see if we can see the piers. I might even try and speak to someone to see if they know anything about it. But I think there's some sort of festival or music thing going on inside today, so we'll do our best. Just ChatGPT'd about this place during the earthquake, and it's actually saying here there's hidden stainless steel cabling and reinforcement installed inside the masonry brickwork. So instead of demolishing this beautiful place, they've obviously come up with things to try and strengthen it so they didn't have to knock it down, which is really, really cool, and saved a lot of work, I'm guessing. Faced a real threat of being demolished, this place, which would have been so bad. You would never have been able to rebuild something like this. So current status is structurally sound, actively conserved. I hope it's structurally sound. I'm about to walk inside. Yo, look at this. Oh my gosh. Alright guys, this might be what they're talking about. These piers that are all the way down the cathedral over here. There's something going on down the end, but maybe these are the piers that were structurally damaged during that earthquake. Can you imagine? And I'm guessing that's maybe where the steel cabling is to reinforce this masonry brickwork as well. But look at this. Unbelievable. Can you, like I said before, can you imagine them having to demolish a place like this? There's no way in the world you'd ever be able to rebuild a place like this. This is unbelievable. This is so good. 1917, 13th of September. Wow, this flag is from 1917. Look at it. Don't actually know where I'm going. Oh my gosh, that scared the living daylights out of me. Oh. Anyway, guys, again, we're looking at those piers that keep this place standing. I can see how it would potentially have been nearly demolished, because when these piers are damaged, can you imagine having to come in here and risking your life, I guess, to check all this? It must have been really delicate, the work to get this place back up to where it is today. But oh god, so this is right at the top of Newcastle, right on the hill pretty much, that overlooks the city. You probably saw from the drone footage, on the top of the hill overlooks the city and the water. So this stands right at the top. It's sort of a bit of an iconic landmark as you come into Newcastle via boat. So if it wasn't here, it would be weird. What's this stuff? Military Cross, Victoria Cross. I think that's awarded. What's that? Awarded to Captain Clarence Smith Jeffries. Devotion to duty on the 12th of October. Wow. I'm just reading here. The restoration period was between 1995 and 1997. There was actually a lot of major works that were done on the towers outside as well. Let's have a little look at this. Look at this. Look at the detail in that. That's mental. God, these old places, when I was younger, I never appreciated history and stuff like that, but now I'm a little bit older, these places. So there's a place, if you want to have a look and Google this, there's a place called Cathedral, which is in Cornwall in England, where I'm from, and it's like this, but 2 or 3 times bigger. It is crazy, absolutely crazy. But one last look before we leave. Look at this. I'm so glad that this place wasn't demolished and damaged to the point where it would have to be demolished during that earthquake. But you can only imagine something so old. Obviously building stuff as time goes on over the years gets better and better, but this was built so long ago, so when the ground started to shake, obviously older buildings were going to be more affected. But I'll say it again, what a building, man. So I'm guessing that's the tower that needed work on it as well. It looks like the only tower. Let's go near quickly. This is crazy to me, this place. Newcastle, Australia is relatively new in terms of the world. What, 250 years old? And something like this, standing right in the centre of Newcastle. So well maintained as well. Look at this. City of Newcastle RSL sub-branch, lest we forget. Look at that. Alright guys, we're going to make our way down now to the Workers Club, which is where unfortunately 9 people lost their lives. That's just down here actually. It's not too far at all, but obviously the most affected part of Newcastle was that building. And again, on the intro you probably saw the roof that collapsed. So one more shot before we go. Look at that. I'm just going down. This is the Workers Club I'm next to now. Unfortunately, I can't put the drone in the air because it's windy for one, and also it's going under extensive repairs, funnily enough. So I'm just going to go down to the front of the building. I might be able to get inside and we'll just have a little look around. But if you go back to the intro of the video, you'll see the damage in the build and the collapse of the roof. I've actually done a little bit of research, and when the building collapsed, the rescuers said it was literally just a puff of grey dust that went into the air, and it took them about an hour to get into the building to be able to rescue people. But not only that, they found that the piers weren't built correctly, and they weren't strong enough to actually hold the building. And they did say if they were built correctly, even with the earthquake, this building would never have collapsed and killed 9 people, which is devastating. As you can see now, this building is like brand new. Like, it's obviously completely been redone, and rightly so. The whole roof collapse, which was, like I said, was preventable after they realised it was completely preventable. So, I mean, you can only imagine as a family member if you lost someone, knowing that if this place was built properly, it wouldn't have happened. So crazy, man, crazy. So I'm inside the club right now, guys. This is the workers' club. So as you can see, and you've seen the previous clips, it's crazy what they've done to this place. Completely renovated, built, obviously structurally sound now, but what a shame to lose such an iconic building in the earthquake, and obviously take so many people's lives as well. Yeah, really, really tough to even stand in here when you know the history of that as well. Like, really, really tough. So there you have it, guys. That's the Newcastle Workers Club. I'm sorry I couldn't really get the drone in the air. I mean, there isn't much to see. It's a bit of a construction site at the moment. But I'll get back to the car and we'll sum this video up and just go over everything. But obviously it devastated this city. Like I said, lives were lost and hundreds of people were affected and injured by it. So yeah, it's awful. Right, let's sum this up, guys. The earthquake of Newcastle, 1989. It killed 13 people. As we've already said, 9 people right here in the Workers Club, 2 people on Bowmont Street, and 1 actually died from shock, which resulted from the earthquake, which, yeah, is awful. So many people were lost on that day. There were over 160 people injured or hospitalized on that day as well. On that initial day it happened, a lot more people attended the hospital after that, like the days and weeks after, when they realized they had problems. Some having inhaled dust, obviously, and then others just through their injuries of the rubble and things collapsing on them. Over 50,000 buildings were impacted and damaged by the earthquake. 30,000 of them were homes. Get your head around that. 50,000 buildings, and 30,000 of that 50,000 were personal homes that were damaged by the earthquake, man. That is a pretty powerful earthquake. 147 schools were damaged during this earthquake, and 42 of them were structural, which needed obviously major repairs on them. Again, impacting children for a long period of time, not going to school while those works were being undertaken and the schools being made safe again. 300 buildings of those 50,000 were completely demolished. They're estimating around 300,000 people were impacted by this. 300,000 people were impacted by this earthquake. That is so many, and this did so much damage, both mentally, physically, structurally, to this city. Like, I can only imagine if it happened today, the impact it would have on such a tight-knit community, which Newcastle has. I'm going to finish with this stat, 'cause this might blow your mind. The estimated damage and the cost for the damage was $4 billion. That's in 1989, $4 billion. And today, that would equate to about 9.5 billion Australian dollars in damage from this one earthquake. So absolute, I keep using the word devastating, but I cannot think of another word for like the city, the people, the buildings. It just devastated the whole city. And realistically, it wasn't that long ago, what, 35 years ago. Man, it's just catastrophic. There you go, there's a better word, catastrophic. Now, I've really enjoyed actually doing this video. Not only that, getting to know about this city myself and the impact of this earthquake, how it happened. I did try, like I've already said, I did try and get my hands on more information, and I tried to speak to people. Unfortunately, I'm not from Australia, I'm not from Newcastle, and I did try, but it just didn't happen. But I hope you guys learned something about Newcastle's darkest day, and you know, my heart goes out to everyone who was affected, and especially the families that lost people, especially here when that could have been prevented if that building was built correctly. So that was yeah, that's not good at all. But yeah, guys, a crazy day in Newcastle, and here we are again. We're here, and the place looks absolutely amazing. The whole of Bowmont Street looks like it's repaired. Workers Club has been rebuilt, which is great, but obviously a lot of bad memories and a lot of scars for a lot of people who still live in Newcastle. So yeah, until next time, guys, if you want any more info on videos, please let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell so you're notified when I post a video. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.